Tonight on GamePoints episode 370, we have new PlayStation 5s going up by this holiday, and we have to ask if Disney is going to buy EA. All that and more, but I want to take one moment here to let everyone know that this is an audience interactive podcast. So if you're watching live here at Twitch TV/GamePoints, or later over any myriad of video hosting platforms, please feel free to join the conversation with any questions, comments, concerns you might have. Just try to keep them germane to the topics on hand. Let's go ahead and move on to the first story of the day. This is direct via the PlayStation blog. The link to this story and all stories we cover will be provided down below or over on our Discord server if you want to go take a look at them, and I recommend you do. New look for PlayStation 5 consoles this holiday season. Once again, this is directly from Sony itself, so expect it to be filled with typical corporate buzzwords and only positive spin. As you can see, they are remaking the PlayStation 5. Don't call it a PlayStation 5 Pro. I don't believe the actual specs of the hardware itself is changing when it comes to its power, just its size and what's going in it, like weight and stuff. This will be coming out later this year, just in time for holiday, and, well, it's just a slimmed down version of it. The PlayStation 5 Slim is probably what they'll end up calling it on the internet. Cool, I guess. Smaller consoles usually mean cheaper prices, typically, but we'll get into that in a second. Let's say exactly what is in here for these. The same technology features that made the PlayStation 5 the best place to play are packed into a smaller form factor along with an attachable Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive and a 1TB SSD for more internal storage. I apologize, they're adding a bigger hard drive. The actual console itself looks remarkably similar to the PlayStation 5, just more streamlined itself. The new PlayStation 5 has been reduced in volume by more than 30% and its weight by 18 and 24% compared to previous models. There are 4 separate cover panels with the top portion on a glossy look while the bottom remains in matte. If you purchase the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition, you can also add the HD Blu-ray disc drive for the PlayStation 5 later, sold separately for $80. So in other words, it's going to cost you more to buy it piecemeal than it is to buy it with the drive already built into the system. Makes sense, most things are like that. That's not really all that egregious. We'll get into the problem that I have with it as we go on. By the way, the new PlayStation 5 model will be available starting November in the US. No actual date, but I'd imagine a week or two before Black Friday itself. And once the current model of the PlayStation 5 is gone, that is it. They will be discontinuing it. So this is not a option, this is a replacement. So keep that in mind. If you want to get the older style PlayStation 5 because you like a bigger console or you just for some reason like it more, there you go. Here's the sticky widget. The pricing. Typically when you have a reduction in console size, you normally get a reduction in price, but that's not the case here. And in fact, you're getting a price increase. Now, the one with the HD Blu-ray disc drive, that's still $499. That's not going up. But the digital version, that's going up $50. That's going to be $449.99. Now, they're going to justify that price by saying, hey, comes with a bigger hard drive. But I think both you and I know that they're saving money on reducing its footprint. They just don't make something smaller for the good of the consumer. They do it to make it cheaper. No, this is a de facto price increase on the console. It's their way of keeping pace with inflation. Because, well, inflation affects everyone, nearly. Some people way more than others. But the reason why businesses start pumping up the cost on your end, on what we're buying, is because it's costing them more to make shit. So when you get a smaller console, typically that would come with a price decrease. In this case, no. So if you're looking on getting that the digital model, the smaller PlayStation 5 out right now, get it while you can for $399.99. Though I am understanding that they are still somewhat hard to track down. It's the bigger boy that I believe is readily available. Something to consider if you're looking to buy one coming up. Good news is, you might find some stores trying to clear out the older model. I doubt it, but it's a possibility to make room for the new one, although I'd imagine those will be few and far between. Also, and a little bit of kind of fuckery in my opinion, There's going to be a little horizontal stand that comes with it. It's like a little kickstand. I wonder if I have a picture of it. Ah, there it goes. You can see it right here. For the horizontal model, it comes with this little tiny tab to keep it from tipping over. Because that's right, they made a console that doesn't stand its own weight. You need to have that little stupid fucking kick tab down there to keep it from tipping on its side. And if anyone's ever tipped a 360 over when a disc is running into it, you definitely want to have it flat lest you destroy your disc on there. Now, I'm sure the PlayStation might have some extra security to keep that from necessarily happening, but why take the risk? Keep it completely horizontal or completely vertical. And for those of you who like your verticality, well, for an extra 30 bucks, you too can have a piece of plastic. That's right, this thing does not stand up or lay on its side without a little extra bit to keep it from doing so. That's how you know desperation is what caused this change, not consumer friendliness. They made it to where you have to take a little extra precaution to keep it even horizontal or vertical. It is not well designed that it can't just sit there on its own without an extra piece to keep it upright, regardless of the orientation you have it in. The fact that they did not take the time to design it, or take the time to design it, where it doesn't need that, shows that they are desperate to get this out soon. Probably because, in my opinion, the cost of the system itself is no longer profitable. They have to roll out this new version with its obvious flaw, and that is a flaw. That is a point of failure that they're adding to it in order to keep costs down, because inflation is kicking in even on a level of a megacorp like Sony. I find this patently stupid, but I also get why they're doing it. It's hard for me to blame them for making such a stupid choice to have a PlayStation that needs an extra little leg to keep it upright one way or another. I guess at least they're giving you the horizontal one for free. They could be charging that as well. But 30 bucks for the piece of plastic to keep it upright, which is how they're always shown, by the way, in their marketing. Keep in mind, the very first picture of this goddamn thing is them sitting upright, as is the second. The only time they actually show this thing sitting on its side is right here to show you the little extra bit right here on its side. You never see these things on their side in the wild. Ever. They're always upright. Now, I will also say that it looks like this is only the one with the actual disk drive that has that extra little bulge out here. The flat one probably does lay completely flat without that little extra bit. But still, it does show an interesting design choice that, in my opinion, once again, was made out of cost cutting than it was any kind of aesthetic choice, which is a sign that these things probably are costing Sony more to make than they're getting in profit to sell, which is somewhat of a dire situation. You don't want a console necessarily be selling at a loss for everyone that they do. I get that sometimes companies do that. I get that there are things as loss leaders where they will sell something for super cheap, eat a cost on it, hoping that you buy more games. But typically when this just feels desperate. I get we've had PlayStation Slims in the past and all that stuff, but they usually, like I said, come with price cuts or something. And a bigger hard drive is not enough to justify such a thing. This was meant to save Sony money because, well, that's just the world we're entering. That's the state of the economy today. But yes, expect these new PlayStation 5s out by this holiday season. Otherwise, I think they look great. I like the slim down look. I like its more compact form. Just that stupid little extra bit is laughable. And I think it shows desperation on their part that they could not figure a way around it, or could not take some more time to maybe put a little bit more weight in it or something, that they had to have that on there. That's baffling to me. Moving on to the next story here, we're going to go to Video Game Chronicle. Once again, all these links are provided down below or over on our Discord server. Disney boss reportedly being urged to consider acquiring a big publisher like EA. Now, this feels like there's some credibility to this, although it is just random anonymous reports, of course, but it's coming from sources I tend to trust. And EA has been dolling itself up for a purchase, shall we say. They have I don't want to say explicitly, but they have hinted that they are looking to be bought. There have been several comments in the past from Andrew Wilson, I believe is the CEO of EA, that, hey, we are open to acquisition, without going out as far to say, yes, we are looking to be bought, because, well, that does have an effect on stock prices, either for the positive or negative. To the article itself. Bob Iger's deputies are said to be keen on the idea of transforming Disney into a gaming powerhouse. That makes sense, by the way, especially since Disney's kind of floundering. They recently had to close that giant galactic Star Cruiser hotel, you know, the Star Wars themed. You're on a spaceship that was costing families like $5,000 for a weekend stay. That got shut down. Their movies have been less than stellar. Their Disney Plus offerings haven't been doing nearly as well as they hoped. Marvel itself seems to be floundering, and they have been mired in controversy after controversy, so it makes sense that Disney would be looking to expand. Because God forbid we focus on our own internal problems. Why do that when you can just buy something that someone else has made and call that your own? Moving to the article itself. Disney CEO Bob Iger, yes, I already read that. That's according to a new Bloomberg feature examining the current state of Disney, which claims senior executives want Iger to explore the possibility of transforming the company from a gaming licensee to a gaming giant with major first-party capabilities. Makes sense. Why have a middleman? Cut out the middleman, keep the license for yourself, and do whatever you want with them, and keep all the profits of the game. Admittedly, though, that does mean you have to take the risks associated with game development, so that's why you would just buy a studio. However, Disney's boss is said to have been non-committal about the prospect of acquiring a game publisher. For now, I expect it to change in the future. It was reported last May that EA was actively pursuing a sale or merger in the wake of its recent M&A activity with the game industry, such as Microsoft's $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard, which could be completed this week. So, yes, do I think Disney wants to buy EA? Absolutely. Do I think EA wants to get bought by Disney? Absolutely. Do I think that Disney can buy EA right now? Well, they have the money for it, sure, but with all the problems that I said earlier, I don't think they're in the position to buy EA. Plus, there are rumors going around that Disney itself might be for sale, or at the very least, dramatically shedding weight. They're not doing too good. In fact, let me take a quick look at their stock here. I'm going to do that really professional thing while live and actually look up something that I should have had on hand. Let's take a look at Disney's stock at the moment, but I think it has been hemorrhaging over the past few months, if I recall. Let's see if I can show it here. Here we go. Year to date. I'm going to bring this up over here. Year to date, Disney is down almost 5%. Now, everyone's down at the moment. So that's not necessarily saying much. Yes, I know. I only have 32 cents buying power, sue me. But they have been having issues lately, especially if you look at the 5-year. If you look at their 5-year, they peaked right during the pandemic when people were staying at home and subscribing to Disney Plus. You have 2020, which you have the pandemic starting right here. Then you had the year of lockdown, so all the subscription services kicked in. We went about to right here, March 2021, when they were at their peak, and they never really recovered. Marvel fatigue, Disney Plus not necessarily paying out as well as going to be, the political issues between Disney and the state of Florida, and, well, just a lot of people in general, have taken their toll on the company. I don't think Disney's in the position to buy anyone right now except out of desperation, and I don't think EA is desperate. If anything, it makes more sense for them to buy Ubisoft, because I think Ubisoft is in a desperate situation, and I think that they are eager to sell. It's just that they are kind of bloated right now. So if I had to venture a guess of who Disney would buy, I would think more like EA. Although, it pains me to say this. You know what? Actually, I back off of that the more I think about it. I was about to suggest Square Enix, given the Kingdom Hearts connection, but I also, from what I hear, there is some bad blood between Disney and Square Enix over the idea of Kingdom Hearts to begin with, which is why they have been moving more and more away from actually being Disney focused and more focused on things created by Square Enix itself. It is what it is. So yeah, let me know what you think about this right here. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, but I do believe that Disney would be interested in it. I think EA would be interested in it, but I just don't think it can happen given the current state of Disney right now. Which means that EA, eager to sell, can potentially get gobbled up by a few more odious companies out there. You know the two I'm thinking of. Tencent and the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund. Let's hope not. Moving on. This is a little bit of a conclusion to a story we've been reporting on for the past month or so. Right here is a press release from Unity saying that their CEO, John Riccitiello, is out. That's right on the heels of the runtime fee controversy and subsequent backlash, and even more subsequent backpedaling that Unity has gone through. It seems that John Riccitiello's tenure at Unity has come to an end. The world's leading platform for creating and growing real-time 3D content today announced that John Riccitiello will retire as president, chief executive officer, chairman, and a member of the company's board of directors effective immediately. He is giving up all of those positions. I doubt it's voluntary. Someone probably sat him down and went, "You're done." James N. Whitehurst has been appointed interim CEO, president, and member of the board. Roelof Botha, lead independent director of the Unity board, has been appointed chairman. Mr. Riccitiello will continue to advise Unity to achieve a smooth transition. The board will initiate a comprehensive search process with the assistance of a leading executive search firm to identify a permanent CEO. We had oh my god, Jim Ryan announced he is leaving Sony. I wonder if they might be talking to him. I doubt it. That feels like a little bit of a step down to go from Sony to Unity, but he could be brought on some kind of advisory position, maybe. Who knows? But this is very clearly, in my opinion, a response to the runtime fee backlash, the fact that Unity ate just horrendous shit on the terrible communication rollout with that program. And good. Get rid. John Riccitiello has been an albatross to multiple companies. This is a man who seemingly continues to fall upwards. This is the guy who infamously said if an indie developer isn't creating a game with microtransactions in mind, they're a fucking idiot. He was leader of EA during the battle days. I believe he ended up moving on to Zynga as well, unless I'm getting him confused with another CEO and didn't do too well there either. This is a man that, of course, says he's retiring, but I'm sure will slime his way into another CEO position of something that we love, only to inevitably fuck up there as well. Now, I'm not one to say John Riccitiello is the most evil person out there. I don't think he's evil. I think he is just a fuck up. I think that he does not get the audience of what he sells things to. And I do find that survey back during his tenure at EA, with EA being the worst company on the globe, to be a little bit laughable. But his passing from the games industry would be for the best. And I hope when he says retire, he actually means retire and not go away for 6 months and pop up somewhere else. So goodbye, John Riccitiello. You will not be missed. Moving on, as we go on to some other news right here, it looks like XDefiant has been put on, well, seemingly infinite hiatus, as we don't really know when it's coming out. A message from the XDefiant team. Thank you to everyone who participated in our recent public test session and continue to stand alongside us as we build XDefiant. One second, I'm trying to get this up in a place where I can read this a little bit better. The public test server once again showed your appreciation for our fast-paced gunplay and uniquely crafted maps, objective-driven modes, and iconic faction roster. Ubisoft, stop using the word iconic. None of this is iconic. It's not iconic if we don't know what it is. If they are not icons, you cannot be iconic. Stop using that term. It feels like this is the same person that wrote the fucking Watchdog press release back when that game was first coming out. Stop it. Learn what iconic actually means. Mario is iconic. Cloud is iconic. Fucking the XDefiant cast, whose names we don't even mention in your press release, are not iconic. If they were, you would call them by name and they would need no further explanation as to who they are. Stop it. Back to the little statement here. But it also surfaced some inconsistencies in the game experience that we need to address prior to launching our preseason. So we've made the hard decision to delay the preseason of XDefiant. The team will continue working to address these issues, testing them to make sure we deliver on our goal of being the best-in-class arcade shooter. We will share more information about preseason and testing as it comes. Thanks again for your support. We're working hard to make something really special, and we couldn't do without you, the development team. This is not canceled. They're too far along to cancel it. I saw some rumors going around about how XDefiant's getting the axe. That's not the case. They are way too far along in development. They would not be ending a game this close. It's not unheard of, but it would be exceedingly rare for that to happen. This was supposed to come out in September. They failed cert. And we're open about that, by the way, certification. And we're open about that, which is unusual for a company, but hey, they're trying to be super transparent, more power to them. And it was pushed to October. Well, second week into October, they're coming out and saying, hey, this is just indefinitely being put on hold until we get things where we want them. More power to them. I don't expect this to be a year. I expect this to be a couple of months. It could be something as simple as they might have been ready to go in October, but looked at everything that's out right now and kind of said, this might serve us better to release in a dead month, December, maybe early January, and see if they can't get some traction with it, because these games are a dime a dozen right now, and it is very, very hard to break into that market. Lord Crush, welcome to the chat. Good to have you. You've heard the game is good. You haven't played much of it myself, but if it's delayed so much, there must be some big issues behind the scenes. I would not be surprised if there were some issues behind the scenes. But like I said, I do think it's close to being released. I think if I had to venture a guess, I think they're just delaying it to find more a better release window for it, along with patching up some issues that they might have going on. It could be multiple things. I don't think it's anything major, and like I said, I don't think it's canceled either. I do think that this game is going to launch by March of next year in its preseason state, whatever that means. They keep trying to find new ways to say early access. But I think Ubisoft can't afford to scrap this. Ubisoft is having some major issues. Assassin's Creed Mirage came out, and it doesn't really seem to be lighting the world on fire. The infinitely delayed Skull and Bones, as well as Beyond Good and Evil 2, are eating up resources constantly. Yes, they have Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora coming out later this year. I don't know if that game's going to set the world on fire either. Ubisoft feels like a studio, a publisher in freefall, and they need as much cash as they can get. I imagine that they are going to crank this out regardless of what state it is in, just during a more dead time, because they need money. They're not going to pull the plug on this. They've invested way too much into it. Let's see, going back to chat here. The betas look solid, and I agree it's too far along to be scrapped. That would be burning money. Yeah, it absolutely would be. Morathon, good to have you as well. We got 2 more stories before we wrap things up here. I know it's a relatively short show, but sometimes it's a short show. First up, TellTale Games seemingly laid off most of their staff. No way of sugarcoating that. The year of the layoff has been continuing. Hell, the couple years of the layoff has been continuing. The games industry has been laying off people in massive numbers for quite a while now. There's not a single week that goes by that I don't report on another mass layoff of some kind of the industry. And I always keep saying they are going to continue. These layoffs are going to continue to 2024. In fact, they're probably going to increase. I know that seems hard to believe considering how many we've had so far, but it's coming. I know I've gone on this rant every time I talk about this, but please, for the love of God, have your resumes updated. Try to save as much money as you can, regardless of what industry you're working in, because the axe is going around. A statement from TellTale. Due to current market conditions, we regrettably had to let some of our TellTale team go recently. By the way, apparently someone who did used to work for TellTale, even in its previous iteration before they got gobbled up, said it was most of their staff. So, ugh. We did not take this action lightly, and we are committed to storytelling and finding new ways to do so to remain the same. We are grateful for everyone and their dedication along this journey, and we are working to support everyone impacted. All projects currently in development are still in production, and we have no further updates at this time. That was, I feel, specifically sent out to the Wolf Among Us 2 fans who have been waiting for that game for many a year, and it keeps seemingly getting the rug pulled out from underneath it. Now, just because they said project currently in development doesn't mean anyone's actually working on it. They could have one person doing token maintenance to make sure that the game is still listed as in development. But I think you might see TellTale get shut down for a second time. This isn't good, especially since they just dropped The Expanse, which apparently seems to be a good game, albeit for a show whose time has already come and gone. It would have made sense to release that game 2 or 3 years ago when The Expanse was actually popular, as opposed to somewhat forgotten these days. Things ain't good to look at TellTale. I was already kind of dubious about their supposed resurrection to begin with. I don't think they're much longer for this world as a company. I get the distinct feeling they're just either going to get completely gobbled up and shut down and their IP handed off to someone else. That's what I think is going to happen. Hopefully I'm wrong. Let me know what you know down below. One final story before we wrap things up on here on this very abbreviated show. The Game Awards are coming back. We knew it. The Keeleys are a yearly thing at this point, dated for December 7th. Look forward to many more world premieres and whatever else Keeley has floating around his brain. I don't expect it to be that big of a show when it comes to new releases. However, when it comes to the awards, it's going to be a very competitive one. Such a stacked year this has been, with Breath of the Wild, Resident Evil, Baldur's Gate 3, Starfield, Dead Space remake. The list goes on and on and on, and I know I'm missing many of them. This is just off the top of my head right now. It is a huge year for video games. Fucking Super Mario Wonder, Spider-Man 2 in a week. It's going to be very, very packed. So I'm very interested to see what comes out on top of that. So I expect it to be a very entertaining fight on the award side. However, due to how stacked this year is, I think a lot of companies have blown their load at this point and are running a little dry. I expect 2024 to be somewhat of a meager offering of a year because everyone needed the money right now. This all ties back to the economy, which has been a running theme for this show for about 2 years now at this point. I think the reason why you had so many companies release so many bangers back to back to back, regardless of what else was nearby them, is because they can't afford to delay it. Normally, you would see games get pushed back a quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, maybe next year, rather than go on to the blunderbuss of major hits that you were seeing this year. That ain't happening this time around. Companies need that money, and they're willing to risk their big games getting overshadowed by an even bigger game to get it. And I think this massive flood of huge titles is desperation. I don't think things are as good as any of these companies are telling their stockholders even. And I think you're going to, that's why I keep saying I expect more layoffs, because this feels like it's desperation to release so many big bangers that they could have easily have spread out over many a quarter, over many a year even. Now, I get that some of these things are competing with each other. Like, for example, what else has Microsoft got other than Starfield right now? They had to drop Starfield out. But Larian, yeah, they could have released a couple months from now. Sony's had some huge hits already. I wouldn't be surprised to push Spider-Man back to early next year to kind of spread that release schedule out a little bit. It just feels unusual to have these major hits coming out back to back to back and risking them, like I said, getting overshadowed by something even bigger, unless they had no choice. So, it's going to be a very interesting Game of the Year conversation when the Game Awards do eventually come around on December 7th. I just don't expect many trailers for anything new at it, or at least any big surprises. Furthermore, it does kind of feel like with the rise of the Direct and the death of E3, that while Keighley is very well connected and that he has the ear of all three of the big boys and many, many of the smaller ones out there, it does feel like they're all moving away from having these industry shows like this and more on doing their own things. The Nintendo Direct, the PlayStation Showcase, the Xbox, whatever the hell it's called. I can forget what it is right now. So it would not surprise me to see the Game Awards getting scanter and scanter every year when it comes to those big reveal trailers. That adventure, guess what you might see? Probably Elden Ring DLC. Maybe something from Dragon Age. Keighley's been very friendly with EA in the past. Maybe whatever the new Far Cry is that's rumored to be in development. We'll see. I'd expect a whole bunch of stuff from Nexion, a whole bunch of stuff from Tencent, or I'm sorry, Level Infinite, as they like to call their American division, because I think they're aware that the name Tencent has a certain amount of baggage behind it. And honestly, given the fact that Keighley is very much in bed with Tencent, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some shit from the Saudi Arabian Public Investment Fund as well. Don't expect much advertising from Embracer, considering the fact that Embracer is massively hemorrhaging money right now, very much closing a lot of their studios down. So do expect maybe one or two world premieres from them as well. Anything from Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, though, not a chance. They'll do their own thing for it. And with that, I believe that's the last story, which does it for the show as well. Thank you all for... Where's my mouse? There it is. Thank you all for showing up. This has been GamePoints episode 370, and we do stream this live every Tuesday at around 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here at Twitch TV/GamePoints. So feel free to come on by and join the conversation like many of you do. Can't watch us live, however, feel free to catch us at any myriad of video hosting platforms, be it YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, etc. You can follow me on X at CapitalistPig21, and you can join our Discord server link provided down there below if you want to be a part of the greater GamePoints community. I also stream here throughout the week as well, so come on by and take a look at what we're playing. Tomorrow, either the Hearts of Iron expansion that just drops, or Star Trek Infinite, which is essentially Stellaris with a Star Trek skin. I haven't made up my mind on that yet, but it's going to be one of those two. Until then, though, you all take care, and I'll be seeing you.